Hi, this is Mike Rothman from Securosis. Welcome to the low-hanging fruit endpoint security video. And let me explain a little bit about low-hanging fruit, because it's a concept that a lot of our analysts are actually looking at within their specific coverage areas. And it really has to do with this concept of maximum impact for minimum effort, right? It's what we want to do quickly. It's what we want to do effectively. It's what we want to have make the biggest impact on our security posture. And today we're talking about endpoints. We focus on process over products because what we're trying to do is make sustainable changes in our environment. It's not really that effective to sit there and throw another widget at the product. That's not low hanging. That involves a procurement process. That involves a vendor selection. There's nothing easy about that. So what we're trying to do is really think about things procedurally, or things that we can address with a process that will again dramatically impact the security posture of your endpoints for this. And we also want to leverage existing defenses where possible, right? If we're thinking about a different kind of attack vector, then maybe we need a new tool or a new widget. But the reality is, for endpoints, there are a lot of things that we already have that we can put in place very quickly or revisit because maybe things got a little bit sloppy over time, as tends to happen, and that's really where we can have, again, a great impact for not a lot of effort. So let's talk about the 7 steps here, and I'll describe each one very briefly, but in enough detail that hopefully you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about. So down at the bottom layer of the pyramid that you see on the slide is update and patch, right? That is the lowest hanging of the lowest fruit, which is basically making sure that you're running the right versions of software and that you've got everything patched. We talk about Patch Tuesday, which is when Microsoft updates all of their Windows devices every month. Well, it turns out that kind of the Wednesday after that, we call Exploit Wednesday, because by the time the attackers get their look at the patches, they've built weaponized exploits that then can take advantage of those attacks very quickly. So whether it's, software like Microsoft Windows or any of the Office applications, or things that are widely proliferated like Adobe Reader, these are the things that we have to pay particular attention to and make sure they're updated as quickly as possible. Next up is an idea called secure configurations. And what you want to do is, again, take a look at something like the Center for Internet Security's set of benchmarks for the operating systems that you use. Close down the services that you don't need on all of these devices. Make sure that they're configured for maximum security where appropriate. Obviously, you want to balance allowing the users to do things versus not do things, but you don't want to have something like FTP allowed on these devices as they're connecting in a public network, because obviously that's just an invitation to get owned. Next up, we have encrypting your laptops, or laptop encryption, full disk encryption, lots of different synonyms for the same concept, which is if you've got private data on any of these devices and that device gets lost, you go through the ritual humiliation of calling every single one of your customers and telling them that their device, that you lost their data, you've breached their trust, and therefore they need to be notified for it. So laptop encryption is certainly a fairly simple way to ensure that you don't have to go through that process. Oh, and by the way, it may actually protect your data. So it's certainly something from a low-hanging fruit standpoint that you can do fairly quickly, because most of the folks that provide your endpoint security suites have a full disk encryption option that you can layer in on top of the agent that you already have. Next, we're going to talk about VPNing to corporate, or virtual private network, because remember, once your mobile employees step outside of the boundaries of your protected network, they're kind of out in the Wild West. So what you want to do is have them establish a virtual private network from wherever they are to your corporate network, so then they can take advantage of things like email security and web filtering and ensure that you are able to enforce the policies for what sites they should go to and what they should be doing on those devices. Next up, we'll talk about anti-exploitation technology. And these are things that are really built within the specific operating systems that you may use. Microsoft has a couple of different technologies: data execution protection and ASLR. God help me if I remember what that acronym stands for at this given moment. But the point is, you've got technologies that need to be turned on within your operating systems to protect against malware, and protect against memory corruption attacks, and protect against a lot of other badness that can happen within your environment. And finally, last but not least, from a low-hanging fruit standpoint, is what we'll call user training, right? You know, and a lot of security professionals get very frustrated with user training because they feel that it doesn't help. Well, I can tell you that there are a certain percentage of your users that will be influenced by your training efforts. It's not going to be everybody, so you're still going to have to clean up after a number of those users, but it will be some. And the reality is you've got to try from that perspective. You've got to be able to, in some way, shape, or form, train these users to stop doing stupid things so that you can spend some time doing more strategic stuff than cleaning up after the 50th person that clicks on the wrong site and ends up with that internet security virus that comes out and tells them that they need this specific virus package to clean up their machine. So with that, those are 7 things that you can do from a low-hanging fruit perspective to impact the security posture of your endpoints. Hope you enjoyed that. This is Mike Rothman from Securosis. Thank you.